Now, new legislation designed to protect women from protesters outside abortion clinics is likely to be watered down by the Home Secretary.
Yeah, under the drafted guidance, campaigners can approach women attending abortion clinics. They can conduct silent prayer and engage in discussion with the women. This is within the 150-metre wide safe access zones.
But we're asking this morning, is this right? Joining us now is the Director of Affinity at Gospel Churches, Graham Nichols, who says campaigners should be allowed near those abortion clinics, and journalist and author Ella Whelan, who says they should be kept away. Very good morning to you both. So, Graham, let's start with you then. You think that these campaigners should be allowed close to abortion clinics. Why?
I think it's a reasonable right of protest and seeking to inform people. I think it's a common sense piece of legislation or guidance rather, about the legislation to just accept the fact that we do in this country have the right to protest and to try and influence. We have picket lines, we have big protests on all kinds of occasions. And I do realise it's a really sensitive issue for the ladies involved who are going there. But I think there's nothing wrong in providing them information. And I think it does take away that ludicrous situation where someone who's praying silently at a reasonable distance from the clinic and not influencing anyone gets arrested. So I think it's just a common sense approach from the government on this particular issue.
Ella?
Well, I don't think, by the way, I don't think protest needs to be reasonable. In the public square, in settings where public debate happens, you can protest however you like, whether that's silent prayer or shouting about your anti-abortion views. That is freedom of protest. But I think we have to recognise and be a bit adult here that an abortion clinic, much like a hospital or anywhere else that provides a healthcare service, is different from your town square, your street, your public area, because the patients who are entering into that area, in this case women, are you inhabit a different kind of being. You become vulnerable because you're going for a procedure potentially. You are not in the same space as someone who's going about and might see a protest on the road of an average day. And so I do think different rules apply in the vicinity of an abortion clinic, because you're not the same as just an average citizen going about their business. And the thing about a lot has been made of silent prayer, and I think it's a little bit of a red herring, because if you're going into something like an abortion procedure and you are, as I think most women who are going in there to have that, tussling with a lot of feelings and emotions and thoughts, even someone standing there holding rosary beads silently, even someone standing there and doing things like holding small knitted baby boots, can be extremely, extremely distressing. And, again, protest should be disruptful, distressing, impactful. But I think we have to recognise that an abortion clinic is in a specific area. And actually, I'm not the biggest fan of this bill. I really am not, because I think it, if you keep protesters 150 metres away or 200 metres away or whatever, you still have a ring of protest around it. It doesn't actually deal with the issue of abortion rights. I'd be much more in favour of decriminalising abortion completely, and so that you had clinics integrated within hospitals. Abortion was treated in the same as, any other medical procedure. We don't have protests like this outside hospitals for, kidney transplants or anything else. I think that if we changed the way that we saw abortion and treated abortion in this country, we would have a much better solution to these kind of issues.
There's a key point in there, Graham, that Ellie made, and it's because silent prayer is used a lot. I mean, for a kick-off, you can pray anywhere you like. You don't need to be in the vicinity of it. People gathering around in that way is, whether you want it to be or not, is intimidating, potentially bullying for those women going in, isn't it?
Yeah, and personally, I don't get involved in these kind of protests, so I'm already standing up for the right to do them. And I certainly don't want to bully or intimidate people. And I do recognise that there is emotional turmoil in this. But I am really interested in the rights of the unborn baby as well. And I think, of course, it's a traumatic time, but it's going to be an even more traumatic time for the unborn baby if the abortion goes ahead. So I think it's reasonable in a polite way to make the points. This may be the only opportunity the young mother has of hearing information or hearing alternative views or hearing about the consequences of taking a leaflet.
Forgive me. Forgive me, Graham. But
Yes.
that's not true, is it? I mean, look, and presumably anyone who's going for a termination would be well aware of the alternative, the arguments against this. They've got to be thinking about that, surely.
I don't think that's true. And having had experience of these things, it's not true that that everyone going to an abortion clinic is fully informed and fully ready at that moment. I mean, they're often traumatized by the situation they've got into of an unwanted pregnancy. And are not always well informed. So I don't think that's true at all. And I think it's reasonable to give information and to give opinion. And I think as a general legal precedent, we really don't want to start kind of isolating particular categories or areas where protest is not allowed. And in a context where there is lots of vocal protest in all kinds of contexts, which intimidates lots of people, which I'm not in favour of, but kind of accepting it happens. It can happen outside an abortion clinic. And the rights of the unborn baby are significant. I think it's often forgotten in this, as though the woman is the only person involved.
Ella, I'll just let you come back very briefly to that. We are out of time, but just very briefly, Ella, last word to you.
Well, I suppose the thing that I'd say is that we have to think about who is the priority in this situation. And, the woman being the one who is pregnant, it being her body in question. I think we need to reassert as a society that it is the woman and her decisions and her autonomy that always take priority. And, the issue of protest is a very important one, but Graham hasn't been able to come back on me on the fact that when you enter into a clinical setting as a patient, different rules apply. And in terms of information, I have to say that looking at a lot of the leaflets that are given out to women in this very bullying and intimidating way, a lot of it is full of misinformation, arguments that abortions can lead to cancer and all sorts of things. So, this is a thorny issue, but I think the question always for me is, who is most important? Is it the autonomy and availability of choice for the woman, or is it your own religious, personal, political views, you external from the situation? For me, it's always the woman that takes first place.
OK, right, we've got to leave it there. Ella, Graham, thank you both very much indeed for talking to us about what is, as you both said, a very difficult issue.